Welcome to Linux for the Rest of Us, episode number 65, the show about the Linux operating system, which is used in so many things these days. I bet you don't even know. We go over tons of things about Linux. Linux news, Linux applications, how Linux may or may not fit into your life. And we're probably going to talk about some things that you might be interested in this episode. I'm going to say that that's going to be the case because we have the man on the show who brings the goods week after week after week and makes it easy for people to use Linux in their life and digest the information. It's the door-to-door geek, Steve McLaughlin, our Linux maven. What's up, Door?
Hey, man. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I can't complain.
Very good. Hope you had a good month off.
I did, man. I must say I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's pretty much the best way I could put it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't do much of anything, and that was just fine with me. So, rejuvenated. Good to be back on the show. So,
I'll just say I'm jealous because my wife asked me one time a couple years ago, "Well, what do you want to do for your vacation? What's your idea of the perfect vacation?" Really? You really want me to answer that? She said, yes. Okay. My ideal vacation is we plan like a 3-week-long trip down to Disney World. Your mother goes, your sister goes, her sister's 2 kids goes, you go, and our 2 kids go. And I stay here and sleep and watch TV and play on the computer for 3 weeks. Oh, she got so mad at me.
did she really?
Oh, yeah. You don't want to spend time with us? I said, no, that's not it. That's not a vacation to me. That's more work than work.
Wow.
I said, because I'll be down there changing poopy diapers in the blazing heat, watching my money just being thrown away on, $5 drinks and stuff that I don't want to just see even happens.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Well,
she has to understand.
No, she doesn't. I'm a physical person. I want to spend my money on something I can touch, I can hold, I can feel, I can set down, I can point at, I can pick back up and point at, not a trip.
Yeah, and then it's gone.
And then, I'm just helping Barack Obama out.
Dude, I'm with you. And I've based like my whole electronic buying habits on that because I've talked about it way long before. I almost consider like everything I buy I'm renting because when I'm done with it I just resell it, and
Right.
It's so I can actually in good conscience go spend more money than I should, and know that it's just renting. I'm going to get it back eventually. So as long as it's on electronics.
Right.
Door, hang on one sec. The audio went a little funky.
Ooh.
Come on, audio. Let's undo that.
Is it me or the stream?
No, it's actually the audio software went into a loop. It was set for loop, so it was going in a 1-second loop over and over and over, which it saved all of our takes, but I just have to untangle it all after when I do the editing. So ready, and we're back in 3, 2, and we're back. So, Door, what do you want to talk about this week?
Okay, well, to be honest, I think kind of the exception of the rule in people who are doing podcasts like yourself. I think we're both exceptions of the rule. We have no problem, number one, mentioning other people's podcasts, referencing them, talking about them, telling people to go listen to them from time to time. The basic, I knew about, I thought about, I believed in, and then I heard someone else talk about it. Just to be honest, this morning I listened to Security Now, episode number 130. Okay. And the root of the basic is choose choice before you have no choice. The only other reference I can give to this is Leo Laporte always said Apple was like Steve Jobs was like Mussolini. Of course, he said this before he passed away. And what he meant by that was he was a dictator to the product. He said what he said, and that was it. Bottom line, done.
All right.
Apple is slowly expanding this And to be honest, Microsoft, because of this, and is now feeling more comfortable also expanding their grip on everything.
All right.
Apple, iOS, and now OS X has a app store built into it. Okay, this app store is how Apple wants you to buy all of your applications. They're slowly making it more necessary and demanding. Here's how stuff should be sent out to their customers. Because of their recent attacks with malware and viruses and stuff, they're pushing it even harder now because they want to control everything. Because, of course, if they do have more control, they do have more security, and it will be less likely to be infected. That's one way to handle the issue. I find it a bit incompetent handling it that way, but that's just my belief. Come with OS X by next March. They're going to make it starting to be mandatory. Every application is hard sandboxed, and applications have to ask for rights to go out. i.e., Apple is going to know every permission every application is asking for, and will have the power to decline them that and say, no, your app shouldn't be able to do that. Take it back. Fix it. Windows 8, there's going to be a app marketplace, whatever they're going to call it. They're looking at doing the same thing. They're going to be years behind Apple because they have such a hard time controlling people after not controlling anything for decades on their operating system. But they're also trying for it. I say choose choice before you have no choice. And this was a little blip of a conversation that Leo had with Steve Gibson. They were talking about this new marketplace coming into the OS X and how they're going to lock everything down with sandboxing and how they see it evolving. So this is not me speculating. These are people who've been knee and sometimes up to their throat deep in technology from like the 70s.
And this is episode 130 of Security Now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Leo said it's nuts. I think what will happen is people who want a full operating system will have to migrate somewhere else. Gibson replied, I was going to say that. If this continues, then this really changes the terrain where these mainstream high volume consumer OSs become closed systems, and Linux for the first time really starts to look like the place where the hackers. And then Leo cut him off and said, if you want to do anything, yeah. And Steve said, and power users live, yeah. I'm in utter agreement with them that pretty soon, if you want to have any choice about how you do stuff on your computer, you're only going to have one choice. Thankfully, that one choice entails over 600 distributions right now of Linux, but you're going to have to choose Solaris, Haiku, BSD, or Linux if you really want control and choice in your operating system. I really do think it's only a matter of time.
I actually agree with you. Well, here's the problem. It is like what Steve Gibson said, the hackers and the power users, yeah. The general population, I think with the success of the iPad and how it's the most incredibly restricted OS you could possibly have, you know what I mean? They love it. And when Apple has seen that, and even Microsoft has seen that the public love being restricted like this and having an easy, experience that, quote, just works, that nobody's going to mind, that all these restrictions are on them. Like none of the non-power users are going to mind. They're going to like it. I think, actually, honestly, I mean, there had to be classes for years and years and years to teach people how to use computers. I think computers historically have been difficult for non-geeks, and that's finally turning, and the public is responding. Like, they're so happy. I mean, people who are not geeks and hate technology are loving these new devices. They're going to love computers acting just like their tablets, I swear. And so it is like I mean, just stating it's sad, but it's true. If you want choice, yeah. That means you're a hacker power user or a geek, then you might have to go elsewhere.
Well, I'm not going to disagree. I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying. What I'll say in retrospect is, if you look back in the 80s, because I know you were alive back then, Steve, anybody over a certain age that got a VCR device would plug it in and the clock would never stop saying 12 o'clock.
Right.
People under a certain age bracket, it was instinctive. They knew exactly what to do. They would just pick it up and go bing, 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 and the time was set.
Right.
I believe there's a sweet spot of age where those are the people who want power, they want choice, they want control, they want choices. Granted, right now, that is a small percentage of everyone. I think as time goes on, when they get older, they're going to still crave that, and then the younger people will be a little bit more accustomed to it. I do foresee that population, even in the next 15 years, not being even close to a majority. But I think there will be enough to sustain Linux's ideals, increase the popularity, because it really is, less than like 1% of all desktop computers. I do see it growing. I do see it being slow. One of the things talked about in Linux for a decade, at least, is this is the year of the Linux desktop. Well, I truly believe by the time it does become the year of the Linux desktop, the desktop will almost be the novelty as well.
Right.
I do believe tablets and tablet type devices are going to really overpower and overtake a large percentage of the consumer space, where to the idea of sitting down to a big keyboard and a floating mouse and a big screen will almost become like the niche use.
Right.
Most of the people won't be using that, but I think it's going to take a couple years. But I think when the PCs start to decline in popularity is when Linux is going to increase in popularity, ironically enough.
I agree. I definitely agree. And it's just, I just see an incredible amount of non-geeks in our society, and people who are afraid of and don't like technology, even young people too, Dor. I mean, like you said, the numbers are going to be greater for the younger generation, but there's still a lot of young non-geeks out there. So
yeah, well, there are a percentage of the young people too which buck technology.
Right.
They purposely are like, they don't want to use the internet, they don't want to be connected, they don't want this thing to control their life kind of ideal.
Right.
I don't know, I guess they're gonna grow hemp in fields or something. Okay, jump to the first topic, partially because I'm honestly excited about this topic. One thing I think nobody out there should ever do is stop learning. Whatever you pick, whatever you want, just don't stop learning. Whether it's how to bake better cookies or how to make better cheeses, I'll say. There's this link on
both
a PC.
things, which I have no objection to, by the way.
Oh, I know. I just watched a show on cheeses. Made me hungry. PC World, they did an article basically saying need Linux skills. There are 12 places to learn online. One of the honestly popular things in the Linux world is the idea of open courseware. Now, there's open courseware for everything from yoga, physics, philosophy, nuclear physics. I mean, a lot of different stuff. Linux is only part of it. And this is, I think, a decent list of telling you 12 places where you can learn Linux. Not all of them are free, mind you. Only I think one or two have a lot of free content, and a fair amount of them are pay content. But, not trying to sound dumb, there's only so much you can learn from a podcast. Sure. So you might want to extend where you're getting it from. I would heavily suggest, if your goal is Linux, the Linux Foundation should be your objective. If you want to make money with Linux, to me, it should be Red Hat or IBM, seem like the two companies that are making a killing off of Linux.
I see. This is a good list.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little shocked at some of the links where
Right.
where they took me to how they looked, and one of them was even